host for a few minutes until Brother Darrell and Sister Deborah come right up in. But before we go any further, we would like to go ahead and send our prayers to the family of Pamela Taylor, Pamela Turner, the family of Pamela Turner, who was executed by Houston Police Department, and it just goes to show you how much work that we continuously have to do when it comes down to our people, Brother Jay, and we are very disappointed with what happened. And one thing that we do know is that police officers are supposed to be trained professionals, and when you have a trained professional take and kill an innocent woman or people of color, it shows that we really have a lot of work to do.
Yes, just remember her name is Pamela Turner. She was shot and killed by the Baytown Police Department. Baytown is a suburb of Houston, Texas. There are many troubling aspects to this story. Also, the issue with Baytown Police is not the first incident people have been accusing the police department of some wrongdoing.
Keep on going, Brother Jay.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep on going, but you want to put that in check when you're on air.
Yes.
But really, one of the other aspects, Sister Khadijah, I want to remind the public now the Louisiana State Legislature is in session. There are several House bills to be considered. One is the death penalty.
The door is open for y'all.
We want to give a shout out to State Representative Terry Landry for help in pushing forward the abolishing the death penalty bill.
Yes.
That will be coming for a vote before the full House. So please call your legislative body and support that bill that Representative Landry is pushing forward, the death penalty. And I say this, sister, with the death penalty, there's a chance that someone might be put to death who might be innocent.
And not a chance, Brother Jay, but there are numerous cases where this has happened.
Yes.
Right, and it's only happened with people of color.
And there are several other House bills to be considered before the House. We also want to send a shout out to Representative Ted James. He's been putting forward several bills dealing with the criminal justice system.
Yes.
Shout out to the group Vote
with
in this area
Gaines
for helping facilitate
Kelly
some
Garrett.
Yes. And I'm gonna step off the set right now. Our guest has arrived.
Yes, and not only will you step off the set for a while, I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing too. And just keep on listening to Community Defender, one of the most powerful show in the entire world. Sister Deborah, you're welcome to come on in. We are live and rolling. Go ahead. Yes, you're welcome to come on in. All right.
Thank you, Sister Khadijah.
Anytime.
Okay. Well, let us go ahead and
start talking.
We thank you all for, of course, tuning in to another powerful episode of the Community Defender Talk Show. We were running a little late this evening, but nonetheless, we're still here. We're waiting on Brother Darrell to come on the set. And we have a lot that's going on in the news cycle today, and we're anxious to talk about it, of course. And so what we'll do is that as we begin our segment today, as Brother Darrell is coming on to the set, and here he is right now, we want to thank the viewing audience for, being with us for the last 20 years. And you can come on in, Brother Darrell. We're on set. Okay. Just kind of introducing our topic today and just thanking the viewing audience for being with us for this amount of time, and thanking, of course, Sister Khadijah and Brother Jay for sitting in us as we roll into the city. But I said there's a lot that's going on in the news cycle today, so let you go ahead and start off and lead us in.
Well, the thing I want to do, of course, is thank everybody for tuning in to the Community Defender Talk Show. And, of course, this particular forum, platform, whatever we call it today, it started really out of a love for Black people, and knowing that our people need information, knowing that we need an alternative discussion, a discussion that is based on truth. But all of the discussions that are going on around the country on various fora and whatnot, this particular forum is one of many that exist now. But 20 years ago, it was a forum that that was
Right.
extremely unique.
Right.
So it's a situation to where we started out then, and we are still now unapologetically black,
That's right.
and we do not apologize for our emphasis on black people and our issues, our concerns. That's not to say that we don't have an appreciation for a Chinese concern
Right.
or a Latino concern, because
Right.
that they are actually original people as well. They were conquered by somebody who spoke Spanish. We in America were conquered by somebody who spoke English. And in Louisiana, a lot of our black people were conquered by somebody who spoke French. So a lot of us have French last names. And
Right, right,
You know,
right.
so, but regardless of the language of the white man that conquered you, we are all, to a degree, a conquered people to various degrees. So the greater media has not done its job, or what is supposed to be its job, in informing the public,
Right.
such that the public knows what's going on and can make informed decisions about what to believe and therefore what to do. So the community defender is necessary. You know, you have forums like Fly Nubian Queen. You have NFA, which is coming up, Never Fall Again, with members of the Nation of Islam. You have the Final Call newspaper, which is a major heavy hitter in black media. And I would say probably the purest, most independent voice of black media is, you know, things like that. And Sister Deborah, when you consider the fact that the parent company of Ebony and Jet is in liquidation, Ebony and Jet sold to other interests and concerns. You look at all of these things going on where our voices, those things which have informed us, those things which we've looked to as I was coming up when Ebony and Jet was really in every black home.
Right.
Now we see all of that crumbling, and we see really the Final Call and a few other voices that have remained independent and out of white control out here. I mean,
Right.
when you consider the fact that where is your voice, black man, and that if CNN is your only place of news, you're in some serious trouble. If MSNBC and Fox are your only source of news as a black man in America, you are in some serious trouble. Now, okay, yeah, and of course you can watch us live at AOCinc.org/watch. So you can watch us at AOCinc.org/watch online right now, worldwide. But the thing is that as a people, as it was with the Muhammad Speaks, as it was then, so it is today, that we gotta have a discussion that is not controlled or informed by the greater Caucasian society.
That's right.
That is born out of a love for us as a people. That's the bottom line. Unless you have that, you're going to be in some serious trouble in the way of information. The other piece which you've worked on for years, which is independent education, independent curriculum.
They go hand in
Why
hand.
should we have a curriculum if we are people as good as anybody? Okay, and we tell that to our children. Sometimes when we ourselves don't believe it, and you can look at our actions and say we don't believe it, because we're
Right.
not trying to establish an independent curriculum. That is to say, a structure of education that we form, own, and control, and we implemented according to the needs of our own people. We have information sources that we implement according to the needs of our own people. See, now, as a black man needs to know his history, but he might need to major in engineering. He might need to major in computer science. You understand? He might need to major in mathematics or physics, something where he can build something. He might need to go into carpentry, go into concrete, go into welding, go into trades as well as educational pursuits that enable him to build something for himself. Because, political science is okay, but you can't really build anything with political science. After you graduate with political science, what can you build? What can you do for your people? And that's the kind of mindset that I think that our people need to turn to. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said years ago, without mathematics, you cannot build anything. You can't build anything unless you have mathematics. And our people have been taught systematically to be afraid of mathematics. And moving from that and just dealing with some things.
Well, before you go
ahead.
past that, I want to read a passage from this monumental work by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called The Self-Improvement Study Guides, Basis for Community Development. As you were saying that, we can't build unless we have mathematics. And, communities are built based upon mathematics, right? And then, human beings and individuals are built based upon that same mathematics. But it has to come from self-improvement.
Right.
The self-accusing spirit has to be activated in order for us to move up out of a bestial state into a human state.
Here's the thing. When you talk about the self-accusing spirit, I just want to lay this out because I think it's a good idea that you bring up these more spiritual concepts, but lay a base as to what the self-accusing spirit is and how that relates to the resurrection.
Well, I'll say that the self-accusing spirit is when we know that we are doing something that we should not do, and our consciousness pricks us. And so that self-accusing spirit is God's gift to man so that he will not exceed the limits. Okay, so he's set laws and guidelines. And when we actually feel bad about the things that we do, that's God's gift to us. That's his voice that he gives to us. And the cartoons is depicted as a devil on the left shoulder and an angel on the right shoulder. That's how they depict it in the cartoon. And the devil is saying, do the thing that's wrong. Like, I think it was Esther say the devil made me do it. No, it was Flip Wilson say the devil made me do it. But no, with the God consciousness, because we are people of God, we have the Spirit of God, tells us to do the right thing. And so the self-accusing spirit is that spirit that we have within us that if we don't kill that voice within us, it'll allow us to evolve stage after stage until we eventually grow into the likeness of Jesus. And then Jesus is, he said, our Father which art in heaven. He said, be ye perfect, even as our Father in heaven is perfect. So he's letting us know that through submission to God, through that self-accusing spirit that's within us, that we can grow up into perfection as human beings. So with that said, in this book, this monumental writing really is revelation, to be honest with you. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaks about what's going on today as it relates to the news cycle, as it relates to propaganda. And this is study guide number 18. He says, rising above emotions into the thinking of God. Today, Allah God is bringing about the destruction of the present world order. His intense dislike for this contrary world and the one who made it is the result of a mathematical, he says, understanding of what he, referring to Allah, desires for his creation. His precise understanding of what he wills and what stands in the way of his will summons an intense dislike for the impediment. When he says, away with you, this is not an emotional reaction, though there is an intense feeling in it. He said, it is the result of reasoning. We, on the other hand, the minister says, are just the opposite in our approach to a problem. Instead of being guided by reason, our emotional reaction clouds our reasoning and distorts our judgment. We react to things emotionally first, and the power of passion dominates over reason instead of being called into service by means of reason. Now, here we go. The propagandist summons the passion of the people by giving them a reason to dislike a person, a thing, a nation. The elite or those in authority supply the people with a reason that summons their passion against the object of their authority's disapproval. Then there must always be a reason to dislike and a reason to a reason to like and a reason to dislike. He who supplies the reason directs the passion. Now, this is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, I'm going somewhere with this because he's saying that the propagandists of this world actually are summoning the passion or really going into the emotion of the human being to dislike a people, a nation, or a thing.
Well, in other words, they're being told lies that focuses their passion against the thing that the enemy doesn't like.
Now, that's where we come to today.
Mm-hmm.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the most hated man on the planet today in terms of the enemy of God. Mm-hmm. They hate him. They say he is a dangerous man. They even refer to him as the most dangerous man on the planet. Now, has the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan done anything to anybody? Has in terms of, has he physically hurt anybody? Has he summoned his passions against a group of people? Has he directed, now, if he can call 1 million men to Washington, D.C., he surely has, the juice, as you will, to be able to summons that same authority to call people into action to do something against those who are his open enemy. So I want to deal with today what's going on, and of course I know we're going to deal with many things, but what's going on as it relates to, as we spoke on last time with Facebook and the ban on the Facebook and Instagram page of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because there are those who are trying to summons the passion of the people against the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and ultimately against the Nation of Islam. And
ultimately against the future good of black people in general, because people have to understand or have to grow into the understanding of what the Nation of Islam is.
Correct.
Okay, the Nation of Islam is a group of people who are striving to live a good life as an example for and a vanguard for the others who will follow.
That's right.
Ultimately, and as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, our people are righteous by nature. He said all of our people are Muslims but don't know we're Muslims.
Right.
We use the label of the white man because we really don't have a root of knowledge in ourselves. So we use their label for us. If they said they were Baptist, we say we are Baptist. If they said we're Catholic, we say we're Catholic. If they said they were Methodist, we say we're Methodist, because we don't have a firm root in who we are, and that identity has been given to us, a group of us who've accepted it through God himself.
You're absolutely right. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that, all of the black people in America and the indigenous people and the brown people are part of the God's nation, the originator's nation. So, I don't want to exclude anybody, but what they're using is their authority and their voice to be able to summons the passion against a small group as really a forerunner to what they want to do really with other people. We're just, the focus.
The thing that people got to understand is that America, the people in the government, okay, they hate all non-whites. They hate the black man in America more because the black man in America, they know, is prophesied to be raised up and to end the world of white supremacy and oppression. The thing that and the person who is leading that, who is on the point, is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
That's right.
Now, even as they talk about unity, and I don't know if we have it queued up, but I want to play it because it's do you have the sister that was murdered in Baytown? If you could cue, yeah, that's fine. And just signal me when you have it ready. But the bottom line of it is, they talk about unity. They talk about how Minister Farrakhan is dangerous and how they don't like his voice. But they don't speak out against the murder and the systematic oppression of black people in America and the systematic oppression of people all over the earth to steal their resources. So when you look at the fact that Trump doesn't want peace with Iran, but he wants a war which will cost about $8 to $9 trillion, with at minimum with a nation that's already $22 trillion in debt. He, like those before him, are bloodthirsty beasts, as Brother Shaheed talked about the beast at Mas Mariam this morning. The bottom line of it is that they are wicked, they're evil, and anybody that is attempting to speak a righteous word of truth, they hate. And Minister Farrakhan is the point man.
Well, before we leave that point, I just want to make this last statement before we go into the clip. Now, the Thursday before last, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was invited to St. Sabina Church in Chicago, Illinois. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, was invited by Father Flager, Michael Flager, who is a Caucasian man and a priest over a black Catholic church. And he was one of those who stepped out and did actually go to his brother. And he said that Minister Farrakhan is a strong man, but he's a human being too. And so, there are those, the minister said, that are Caucasians that will, because of their humanity towards, the oppression that has that has happened to black people, indigenous people around the planet, and of course, Father Flager is over that flock. And so I just want to say that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in an open forum, for those who think that he's just a hater, that there are those that are Caucasians that actually are people that will be able to go into a world of righteousness because of the good that they do. So I don't want you to think that it's just, there's only just going to be black people or brown people or yellow or red people, but those who are righteous will be the ones that will inherit the kingdom of God on earth.
Right. And well, here's the thing I would say to that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has never apologized, and he reaffirmed his focus on black people.
Correct.
And he also reaffirmed the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even in that forum,
right,
even in being invited by a Caucasian man.
But many people think it's hate teaching, and so we have to disavow people of that right now to let them know that this is not what we don't exist because we hate white people.
Well,
we don't exist.
Here's the thing.
But like you said in the beginning, we're unapologetically focused on our own.
Right. But here's the thing. He reaffirmed the teaching.
Correct.
That the white man, even in that forum, is a new man on our planet.
No doubt.
White folks are new genetically. They were put on the planet or brought out of the original people for a purpose.
Correct.
They were to rule for a specific period of time.
And he said the rule is over.
He
said their rule is over. Now it is our time to rule.
It is our time now. It is our time to rise. It is the day of the black man's resurrection and rise back into the knowledge of himself and therefore into the rulership of himself.
But he said, white folks, you don't have to go anywhere. It's just our time. And that's just what it is.
That's pretty much what it is. So it's a situation to where no matter who is there, whether it be Caucasian, whatever, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stands on the truth that the Most Honorable Elijah
Absolutely.
Muhammad gave him, and it doesn't matter what forum he's in, because he taught on the newness of the Caucasian and the end of the Caucasians' rule
But that's
over
a
the
fact.
planet.
Even the Caucasians have
Right, but let me make
Mm-hmm.
my point. He taught on that,
Okay.
even in that forum, and most people would think that he would have let that subject go. But no, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan laid it out that, hey, it's our time. It's the time of the black man's rise, and it's the end of us being ruled and controlled by Caucasian people. We just have to understand that it's that time and forsake that wicked control and influence. And so I want us to go ahead and play this clip, and then we're going to talk about this for a minute. Because again, these things continue to happen, and until we come together as a people, there's no incentive for white folk or any other people to stop abusing us as long as we are a disunified and fractured people. Let's go ahead and roll this murder of
Officials in the Houston area are investigating a deadly police shooting caught on video last night. The cell phone video posted on social media shows a Baytown, Texas police officer firing 5 shots after struggling to arrest a 45-year-old woman. Nikki Batiste is covering this still unfolding story and joins us at the table. The video we've seen so far is very disturbing.
It's extremely disturbing, Gail. Police say the 11-year veteran was apparently doing a routine patrol outside of an apartment complex when he came across a woman who he knew had outstanding warrants. We must warn you, the video you are about to see can be disturbing to some viewers. This cell phone video begins as the officer confronts the woman. As she moves away from the Baytown officer, he pulls out his taser and fires. The woman continues to struggle with the officer as she falls to the ground, at one point telling him she's pregnant. She then, according to police, gains control of the officer's taser, turning it on him. That's when he fires his gun at the woman 5 times. She was pronounced dead at the scene.
Heard the gunshots, and then all of a sudden I heard the ambulance.
I never seen anything like this. After the 5 years staying here.
Witnesses who saw the woman frequently walking her dog in the area say they believe she may have had mental issues.
Sometimes you would see her, get into it with people around the apartment. Just typical her. She's not a bad person. She didn't hurt nobody.
Investigators say the officer was out doing a routine patrol when he got out of his car to approach the woman. Lieutenant Steve Doris of the Baytown Police Department says a preliminary investigation found it was necessary for the officer to use deadly force.
Our officer got tased with his own taser. If somebody's tasing you with it takes your taser away from you and starts tasing you, there's a very good likelihood that it's going to escalate and get very, very bad for the officer from there.
A witness also said the officer lives in the same complex. Police say the officer was wearing a body camera, but that video will not be released yet. The district attorney's office is investigating the shooting along with the Baytown police, and that officer is now on 3 days leave, according to.
I kind of wanted to have just the actual video of what occurred, which the Nation of Islam, the regional minister Abdul Halim Muhammad was on the scene, and I would have liked to have some footage of him and some of the things that he said about that. But the bottom line of it is that the woman was murdered in cold blood. They are always going to frame it in such a way that it's going to justify the actions of the officer when it deals with the murder of our people, no matter what. So the idea that we don't need the community defender, or we don't need the final call, or we don't need Your Black World or Fly Nubian Queen or any of the community defender, we need places that we can go that affirm us and that speak to us and speak to the truth. Because no matter what happens, they are going to frame it in such a way, and you cannot, I can't emphasize this enough, in the current American justice system, it is not possible for the black man and woman to get justice in this system. It is not possible. Here and there, a officer may go to jail for a few years, but when you look at the thousands of murders, if 2 people go to jail out of thousands, what does that say? That says it's still an unjust system. You cannot, through the courts of the United States of America, achieve justice for the black man and woman of America. It is not possible. You can't do it through Supreme Court appointments. There is no way in this system to do it. And people are so hell-bent against the acknowledgement of us as human beings until it is absolutely impossible in any state of the union for us to achieve justice. That is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, though they're called haters, have advocated the greatest love, which is for us to get away from a people that consistently and continue to abuse us as a people. Now, having said that, what you just saw can be ended with unity. What you just saw can be ended with us coming together as a people. We just had, of course, the right in Opelousas, where a young man burned down 3 black churches. Mike Pence went over there to appease the Negro class of preachers. But again, that does not change the absolute fact that that even the white folks that taught us Christianity and told us to go to church, they don't even respect our churches. They blew them up in the 60s. They're burning them down in the 90s, the 2000s, and up to now. They have never respected the places of worship, even though we're worshiping their God, even though we're worshiping their Trinity, even though we're doing what they say is God, we still do not get the respect of our places of worship, and it's not possible. So to pivot back to what you were talking about, Sister Deborah, which is their blame of Minister Farrakhan.
Mm-hmm.
They're labeling what Minister Farrakhan teaches as hate. Okay, we are at a historic moment, and I haven't heard it for myself, but I'm going to put it out there because a Muslim told this to me, that for the first time in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's 86 years of life, and for the first time in his 64 years of being on the battlefield of truth for the people of God, black people, that for the first time the minister has been called a liar, which he has never been called in the history of, because everybody knows he's a truth teller. Nobody wants to debate the minister. People go to court and debate all kind of things in the public. They debate transgender versus straight. They debate legalization of marijuana versus non-legal. They debate everything in the open public except what Minister Farrakhan teaches, people coming out and debating that in the open. If you notice, they don't want to debate that. They debate every issue. Abortion versus the right to choose, as they call it, versus no abortion. Every issue of our time is debated openly, except they do not want to come out and debate the Honorable Louis Farrakhan or those with him in an open forum to see whether or not it's a lie, the truth, or whether or not it's hate. They do not want to do that in the year 2019. Now, we have a Negro, a sister, who is dead to the knowledge of herself, and who won't, yes, she is. Because when you know who you are, you conduct yourself according to who you are. She wants to be a CNN contributor. That's how she sees herself.
She is one.
She wants to preserve her space among them. And she does not care about the establishment of a divine place for her own people. When you speak out as a black person, whether you agree with him or not on every point, you just have to evolve and grow. When you speak out against a man who has given his life for you, that is the ultimate betrayal of not only yourself, not only your people, but of your actual self. And when your heart stops beating, your name goes down with God as one of the hypocrites, as one of the enemies of him and the righteous kingdom that he is attempting to establish. So when this sister did what she did and said what she said, even as the white man, now listen to me good, has never said, Minister Farrakhan is not telling the truth. They'll say it's hate, but they will not ever say it's a lie. They have never characterized what the Honorable Louis Farrakhan teaches, even as falsehood. But for the first time, one of the slaves, one of the house Negroes, has gone out, and they won't ever debate it. And they won't ever debate it. Just like Alan Dershowitz, who doesn't like Minister Farrakhan, will never debate him. Just like the head of the ADL will never debate Minister Farrakhan or Brother Nuri or Minister Ava, because they know that they will lose in a structured debate. They know that they don't have the truth on their side. But this has all been prophesied, that Pharaoh had magicians that would come out and try to lead the people astray, and would literally betray their own salvation and the salvation of their people by being on the side of the enemy of their people and on the enemy of God's messenger. And Minister Farrakhan right now articulates the pure, up-to-date will of God when he opens his mouth, and he demonstrates the will of God by the actions that he takes and by the salvation that he has caused to come into the lives of thousands and hundreds of thousands of black families. Now, Sister Debbie, you had something?
Well, Brother Darrell, I just have to tell you, when I heard this morning, I got up and I was told what was said by this person. And to be honest with you, I was infuriated, so much so to the point that after the mosque meeting, I just had to go lie down. I had to go to sleep, literally. I did not want to watch it before we came on set, because I'm already, I'm infuriated by this person's words and actions, and disappointed, because really, I thought that this particular sister was, down for black people, that she really had her head on straight, and that she, was someone who was speaking literally truth to power, like she would say. And so literally, I am just so infuriated at this person, and I as with Muslims, we are the type of people that we really, when you come against our leader, it's you really open up a can of worms for yourself. And so I had to really just pray to the God to see exactly how I would approach this. Now, my first inclination, Brother Darrell, was, of course, to rip this sister into shreds, to be honest with you.
Do you have a clip of what she said? Okay.
And so it was to rip her into shreds. And then, I thought about my teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he was told by his teacher, he said, brother, he said, don't be like Peter, be like Paul. So, of course, the narrative of Jesus Christ, when he was in his passion, and he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. When the Roman authorities moved on Jesus, Peter, out of his love for Jesus, goes and cuts off one of the servants' ears of the high priest. And so what Jesus does at that time, he takes the ear and he puts it back on this particular authority. And so what does that mean? All that's symbolic. It doesn't have anything to do with him surgically replacing the ear. What it has to do is that Peter, which was a disciple of Jesus, in his passion to defend Jesus, he cuts off the ear, meaning that he cuts off the ability for people to be able to hear the message of Jesus, the redemptive message of Jesus. Now, this sister, I'm coming to her as a sister. You know, she really, you know, I'm praying to Allah that He will speak to my heart so that I can understand why this sister would do this, why she would say this about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, questioning who is she a mouthpiece for? Who's paid her off? What deal has she made? So, and that's in my humanity. But pulling on the divinity of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who, if he isn't the Jesus in our midst today, I really don't know, you know, who could be, who could represent that man better than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I literally had to think about what would he do? What would the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan do? One is that he would never tear down a black person, another black person in the public. He would take that person behind closed doors and deal with him man to man or man to woman. So I had to think to myself, what would I do? What should I say? Now, let's just tell you who exactly Angela Rye is. Angela Rye, according to what Wikipedia says about her, but I'm sure there's more, is an American attorney and the principal CEO of Impact, the Strategies, a political advocacy firm in Washington, D.C. She's a liberal political commentator on CNN and NPR political analyst. She serves as the executive director to the general counsel to the Congressional Black Congress and for the 112th Congress. She's 39 years old, and we first start hearing about her and you know, throughout the media, is that she came on to the Breakfast Club, and she was a guest of and a friend of Charlemagne the God. Now, you know, there's much that I could say about that because there's obviously a conspiracy there. Charlemagne the God is the one who brought the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on the Breakfast Club for 10-10-15, you know, the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. He said that Angela Rye was a friend. She gets on there, speaks truth to power. You know, she says she grew up in a background of political activism from her father. And she really, you know, started moving through the ranks of media based upon her, you know, outspokenness against white supremacy and against injustice against black people. And then what happens is that the very person, even Tamika Mallory, and they were coming against her, had enough scruples to defend the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's right to say what he said, even if she didn't agree with it. This person, this Angela Rye person, is I'm so disappointed. But what would the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan do? What should we do as black people when people like this come out against a man who's done only good? Let me finish. Who's done only good for black people. It is our call to action. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does not have to speak. He does not have to defend himself against this type of hate. He does not have to do that. This is our call to stand up and begin to start teaching the world who this man is, Louis Farrakhan. We have to set the record straight because the enemy is doing everything that he can to give him a bad name. And they've done that to many different leaders, but this man, for what reason do you hate him? What has he done to anybody but tell the truth?
Period. The thing I would say with as far as, because again, it's not really Minister Farrakhan's trial. Minister Farrakhan has 64 years of work that bear witness of him. This is us to see what we're going to do and what we're going to say. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the 60s, when he was under attack, he said to his ministers and to his laborers, I want to see what you're going to say, because an attack on me is an attack on you. And when Angela Rye attacked the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, she was attacking the hopes and aims and aspirations of all black people because all of it is embodied in the message of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So when this sister did what she did, and really what we call, they call it now cooning for the white master. And a lot of times you can come in with some truth, as Lucifer means a carrier of light. The very definition of the word Lucifer, fer to carry, Lucy meaning light. The devil carries light. But when they cast it out, they attract you with the light, and then they come with the deception. So she's been given a measure of credibility by white media and invited on white media, but understand they're not going to give Minister Abel or Brother Nuri or even Dr. Umar Johnson a regular segment on white media because they do not give a narrative that is palatable to the white man. So they bring somebody up who they're gonna market to you as semi-conscious, and then they allow them, after they've gained a measure of credibility among some black people, to flip the script to make what they say credible. That's been the trick. They bring you up, let you say a few forceful things, give you some credibility among white folks, and then once they give you that credibility, then they give you the program to switch the game up. The girl, if she is, and she's definitely not grown into a woman yet by her actions, in my view, she has given up her very humanity. And that's not to say that she can't disagree. But when somebody has been working, as Dr. Boyce Watkins said, before you were even in diapers, they were working for black people. For you to say something like you said, that you can't prove, that you're unwilling to prove, to please white folks so that they will do you like they did Gayle King and maybe give you a raise after you denigrate a black man. You understand me? Gayle King did her best to make R. Kelly look foolish and to help the narrative that white folks were. So now she's getting $11 million a year, I believe it is. And Oprah the same way. Whenever you further the narrative that the white man wants, they exalt you. But whoever white folks exalt can be pulled down by white folks.
Right.
And the reason that no matter what they do in the media, they cannot pull down the minister, it is because they didn't make the minister. So Angela Rye is going to go down in history with the rest of the Uncle Toms that we don't even know who the hell they are. Well, let me say this. We can point out, because we study history.
Well, before we start name calling, that's what called cutting out, because there are people that follow Angela Rye, that listen to what she says. We can't cut off the ear of those who may need to know the truth about the Honorable Minister.
Well, here's the thing I'm going to say. Because at some point, you got to draw a line in the sand.
Well, the line is on us.
Right. I understand, and it's on us tonight. And and again, I want you to be fully expressive of your point of view. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, unlike any other person, is, because of his work and because of the depth of the power of his word and his work and his consistency, is off limits.
Yeah.
Let me finish. For black people. In turn, now you can say you disagree to please white folks, like a lot of people do. Well, I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with his right. Well, that's fine. But when you come out on a full frontal assault on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you, in that moment.
I'm not saying that's the case, but we can't debate this in front of white folks.
Well, keep in mind this. White folks know the Negro they made. They know what they made. They know that they made a class of people that are not loyal, that they can use on the media to divide one against the other. And when somebody raises, now like the minister said, we're not going to all be together. People who oppose black folks, who are really for and with the enemy, we cannot be with them, and that they must be called out when they raise their head against the aspirations of black people. And when you do that, whether you're Clarence Thomas, whether you are Sheriff Clark, whether you're Candace Owens, whoever you are, when you are absolutely opposed to the resurrection and rise of a people who have been destroyed, you yourself have to be called out. I don't give a damn how many conscious things you said.
The Honorable Minister
You have to
Louis
be called-
Farrakhan said with the Facebook situation, when he was at Father Flake, you would think that he would have railed Facebook, that he would have railed
didn't need
Mark Zuckerberg, but he didn't. The reason that he didn't do that, because he said, he talked about envy. He talked about what envy produces. He talks about the first dysfunctional family. He was saying that in order for us as people to be able to move out of what this 6,000 years of dysfunction, that we must now move using love, he said, the two laws that Jesus gave to us. He said Moses gave 10, but Jesus only gave 2. Now, we can't take that same vitriol and all of those things.
This is not born out of
No. I'm not talking about you, but I know exactly what I already see the pattern where it's going. I already see the pattern where it's going. We're talking about a new heaven and a new earth. We're talking about a perfected people. He said if he could say that love could help us get out of the situation with Facebook, with an open enemy. I don't know for sure, but I know Mark Zuckerberg is a Jew. I don't know if he's a Zionist Jew. If he could say
I have a picture on my phone of him sitting and chatting with Netanyahu.
All right then. So my point
is a satanic dog.
So my
That's
point
just what it
is
Netanyahu is a satanic dog.
With our sister, even though, my natural man wants to deal with this sister on a real way, in an open forum, because she did what she did in open forum. But I know that the way that we are going to really defeat this and combat this is that, and this is what I pledge tonight online, that the rest of the days of my life will be dedicated to uplifting the name of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan through education. Because people don't know him, like he said. You all are saying this about me, but you don't know me. He said, but when you become introduced to me, he said, your hate starts to turn to love. And that's what, as a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I pledge to do.
Well, and I'm grateful for that pledge. The thing that I would say with respect to this situation,
I'm not wasting energy.
Right. Here's the thing. With respect to this situation, and again, it doesn't really have to be a lot of time dealing with it because his friends have already come out and lambasted everything that she said and shown how it was false. But the principle is that when whoever is against my mama, in the moment that they come out on my mama, before they apologize for coming out on my mama or my daddy, is at that moment, they are not at that moment considered a friend, and they have to be and they have to be dealt with.
She's not.
Right. We have a security protocol in the nation. If you do certain things which indicate that you're an enemy, you are then what? Treated as, you could be black as ace of spades, but when you come in there short-stopping for COINTELPRO, short-stopping for the CIA, short-stopping for the FBI, and trying to cause problems in our ranks, we expel you, and if you don't accept the expulsion, we deal with you accordingly. And with respect to her, she was verbal in her attack on the minister. We have to be verbal in our correction of the attack. Period, point blank, bottom line. And she has shown her hand what side she's on. She has put her energy on the side of the satanic forces. And as the Holy Quran says, the devil has gained mastery over them, and they are of the devil's party. That's she's already chosen. She's chosen to be a Democrat.
There's redemption in everyone.
And I'm not saying she can't be redeemed, but right now, as we are taught, when you come as an enemy, we treat you as how you come. She's not ignorant by any means.
Not any means.
By any means.
She's an attorney. She's very wise.
Right.
And smart. Smart. I won't say wise.
There are some attorneys who are academically proficient.
No, she knows what she's doing.
Right. Well, I'm not saying she doesn't. But just because she's an attorney or just because she has a law degree doesn't make her wise in the ways
I
of the
said smart.
resurrection. Right. So the
There's
point is,
difference.
the point is that we deal with her according to how she presents herself, and when she turns, as the Holy Quran says, then we turn back to her mercifully. But she's got to turn from this. May Allah bless each and every one of you as we greet you in peace. I'm glad we had a spirited discussion, and we'll be right back next time with more truth and more of that discussion that our people need. May Allah bless you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah. So, but yeah, with as far as how she is now, just deal with how she is. I'm not saying curse her out like some people would do, but I'm saying, hey,